Hey guys, welcome back to the Pulling Curls podcast. Today on episode 194, we are talking about nutrition during pregnancy. Let's untangle it. Hi, I'm Hillary Erickson, the curly head behind the Pulling Curls podcast, Pregnancy and Parenting Untangled. There's no right answer for every family, but on this show, we hope to give you some ideas to make life simpler at your house. Life's tangled, just like my hair. Today's guest is a registered dietitian, which, by the way, is different than a food coach or a health coach, just so you guys know. She is the mind behind Feed Your Zest. You can find her on TikTok at McKenzie Caldwell RDN, or on Instagram at fertility.prenatal.dietitian. I want to introduce today's guest, McKenzie Caldwell. Do you feel prepared for your delivery? In just 3 short hours, you can be prepared for the confident, collaborative delivery you want. You'll know what to expect and how to talk with your healthcare team, and there are no boring lessons in this class. I'll use humor, stories from my 20 years in the delivery room to engage both of you. I love how Alyssa told me that she found herself laughing at things that used to sound scary. Most of all, you guys are going to be on the same page from bump to bassinet. Join the online prenatal class for couples today. You can save 15% with coupon code UNTANGLED. You can find the link in the show notes. Hey, McKenzie, welcome to the Pulling Curls podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you on here. We actually haven't talked about food. I don't think ever on this. I mean, we've talked about eating.
Gosh.
Obviously, eating is very important. But as far as like prenatal nutrition, just because I'm super picky about who I would have on, I have a lot of like diet coaches talk to me and I'm like, if we're pregnant, I really want a nutritionist. So that's why McKenzie's here.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for being picky. It's so important that we be picky with where our nutrition information comes from. So
yes,
I'm glad I made the cut.
Yeah. Well, I used to work in a diabetic clinic every once in a while. I love the dietitian there. She was so great with the patients. And I think it's so in gestational diabetes, your dietitian's everything.
Absolutely. And you'd be surprised how many doctors don't refer to a gestational diabetes dietitian and then just leave their patients hanging. So we're here. We exist. Please utilize our services.
Right. Use physical therapists, use dietitians.
Yeah.
OBs are not God, even though they think they are.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So McKenzie came with 5 tips for prenatal nutrition. So take it away. What's your first tip?
Yeah. So my first tip, we were kind of hinting at this, talking about diet coaches. My first tip is delete your calorie counting app. That can feel super, super scary. But what's really important is that instead of feeling stuck on a restrictive diet in pregnancy, that you're actually listening to your body. Your body is really wise, and that wisdom really does come through in pregnancy. But listening to your hunger, paying attention to your fullness, and kind of pairing that with a little bit of evidence-based nutrition info on the side really can be plenty to help you gain exactly the amount of weight that your body needs to gain in pregnancy. We do not need to be worrying too much about calories. It's not good for your mental health. Postpartum eating disorders are really, really common. So when we can kind of set you up for not being in that diet mindset during pregnancy, it's going to help protect your mental well-being after pregnancy as well.
What do you think about the people, though, that just eat macaroni and cheese for every meal? Like, because sometimes I see stars, especially on their first pregnancy, and they're just like, I'm just eating whatever I want. And I was like, that's amazing. But it's going to be interesting to see how they act after they have their baby. Any thoughts on how you listen to the real voice, not the macaroni and cheese every meal voice?
Right. So what's funny is that's what I call the diet rebel voice. So that's a super protective voice that comes up when maybe you have been dieting for a really long time and it's very rebellious. It says, I don't want to do that anymore. Like this is like, now that I'm pregnant, I have this chance to eat whatever I want. And I'm so glad you feel free. But that diet rebel voice isn't a true self-care voice, even though it is protective against dieting. And dieting is not going to be helpful for your mental or physical well-being at all. But taking a big deep breath, reminding yourself like, yep, I can eat whatever I want. Technically, I'm an adult. I can eat whatever I want at any point. I can feed myself. And if I value my physical well-being, maybe I should have some green beans with my mac and cheese. Yeah. maybe some other protein or something like that to fully nourish your body. But when you're paying attention to your hunger and fullness, again, you can pair that with some nutrition science to fully take care of your body. And nutrition can be really, really effective in pregnancy. But ultimately, I believe in bodily autonomy. So if you want to eat mac and cheese during pregnancy, you're allowed to do that.
Yeah, you are 100%. No one's going to stop you. No one.
No.
Unless maybe their agent. I don't know.
Sure.
Luckily, I don't have an agent, so I can do whatever I want. I love
Yes.
that though, because it is true that a lot of people live on a diet up until they get pregnant.
Mhm.
And then, they go through morning sickness and then they're like, well, I need to get all the calories in I want. And then second trimester comes and they're just like, all the calories.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we can get out of the diet mindset before pregnancy, I think that's awesome. But I meet people where they're at. So we
Yeah.
can get out of that mindset at any point.
And before we're a mom, because little
Yes.
eyes follow you everywhere. They see everything you do.
Exactly. That's why I love working with this population. It's just like a lot of motivation to work to kind of take care of yourself, set yourself up for success, and kind of work on building a household that is body positive and has a healthy relationship with food, but also like takes care of their bodies with nutrition at the same time.
That's awesome. Okay, tip number 2.
Yeah. Tip number 2 is to hydrate. So in pregnancy, your fluid volume doubles. Your blood volume is higher. You've got amniotic fluid. Your body's starting to produce breast milk. So hydration. I recommend 80 to 100 ounces of non-alcoholic, non-caffeinated fluid per day. If most of that is water, that is ideal. But technically, even a soda does count towards your hydration, especially if you feel like a 7-Up or a ginger ale is going to settle your stomach when you're nauseous. It's totally okay. We just want most of that to be water. And you might need more electrolytes in pregnancy too, because there's so much fluid volume. You're probably going to need a little bit more of those electrolytes like sodium and potassium and magnesium. So if you're drinking that much water and you still feel super, super thirsty, maybe grab a Gatorade G2 or a liquid IV or something. Or if you're really athletic or work out in the yard a lot and are super, super sweaty in the summer, you'll probably need a little bit of extra electrolytes too. I see a huge difference in my clients who are well hydrated for sure.
Yeah, everyone jokes that the labor nurses, everyone's like, well, what can I do? Well, I'm like, and they're like, well, you could drink more water. Like, that's our answer to everything. You're in preterm labor, drink more water. You got a headache, drink more water. You don't like your doctor, drink more water. Because then you won't see him as much because you'll be in the restroom. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's our first line. Like, okay, we got to check that. It's kind of everybody's like nurses, dietitians, PTs, whoever. We got to check that our patients are hydrated. If they are, great, but we are going to ask you. So just, if you don't want to hear the question, if you want us to bug you about water, just drink your water, people.
And check the color of your pee if you have white toilets. Because sometimes people have like black toilets. I'm like, well, I don't know how hydrated you are, but if you have a white toilet, look before you flush. It should just be a super light yellow. I think a lot of people are obsessed with like how many ounces it is. But again, if you're working in the yard, you're going to need more, all that kind of stuff. So just check the color of your pee. If it's looking yellowy, ambery, if it looks like beer, it's over. You need a gallon.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm the same way. I recommend like 64 ounces outside of pregnancy and lactation, 80 to 100 in pregnancy, but I don't count. I just have these mason jars. And so if you're like me and you just drink water and you don't pay attention and there's no way you're going to count it, just look at the color of your pee.
Yeah. Which is especially when you live in Arizona in the summer, because
oh my God.
Whenever we get somebody's pee, we're always like, girl, look at this. Look at this color. Okay. That's like a jewel you wear around your neck, the color of your pee.
Your birthday in November because this looks like topaz.
Exactly. All right. Oh, and I was going to say, I got a flu with child number 2 and I, probably was still working because nurses, but I went in and they checked my urine and they gave me like 2 liters and I cannot tell you how much better I felt when I walked out the door. I know I had said drink more water because I was a labor nurse at the time. And it's amazing when you are actually hydrated, how much better you feel, which it's crazy town.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. Super important.
Yeah. I cannot emphasize my fluids. My second tip talk video was me saying, drink more water. And it was like a question flashing up and me going, drink more water. My daughter filmed it and makes fun of me all of the time for it. You're welcome.
Oh my God. I love that.
Okay. Tip number 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Please take a prenatal vitamin. I was just talking to, and even if you're not pregnant, if you were trying to conceive, be on a prenatal vitamin, please. I was just talking to a client this morning who has a friend going through IVF that was not recommended to take a prenatal vitamin. And we were both very confused and kind of Yeah, just please take one. Anything is better than nothing. Unfortunately, the FDA does not regulate the supplement industry, which on my end is super frustrating. And I think it's even more confusing and frustrating on the consumer end because you don't know what to look for. So what we do need to look for is third-party testing. Sometimes a website will just say that they third-party test. Sometimes they'll have like a symbol saying that they're certified by USP or NSF or Consumer Labs or something. So that's a really, really great sign. And those aren't the only like third-party labs that do testing for quality and purity and efficacy and safety and all of that kind of stuff. There are other places, but those are great ones to look for. Those symbols are awesome. And if you can swing a little bit of an investment, it is helpful to get a higher quality prenatal vitamin. For example, like Nature Made Prenatal, USP certified in every drugstore, affordable. It's great. It's basic, covering all of our super basic nutrients. It's missing a couple of the vitamins like choline that I think is really important. And then there's a little bit of debate about, we emailed about this, about folic acid versus methylfolate. I'm a fan of methylfolate, but I'm not going to argue with me. I think it's way more controversial than it needs to be. And folic acid is not going to kill you, even if methylfolate might be like slightly better utilized by some people. But anyways, that's there. If you're taking that, great. If you want to look for a prenatal vitamin that has a little bit more to it, maybe looking for some choline and some selenium and things like that, and maybe adding on a DHA supplement if you're not taking, if you don't consume seafood, that's really helpful. But those can make a really big difference. It's super important that you're taking something. And then kind of getting your bases covered as far as like iron and vitamin D goes is really important for your well-being. Usually baby's going to be fine because biology is nuts. In that way, it will kind of suck all the nutrition out of your body. So I always tell my clients, yes, of course I care about your growing baby, but you are my client. You are my patient and I care about your well-being. So let's make sure your iron levels are high enough so that you don't feel like you're going to pass out and feel super depressed. Make sure your vitamin D levels are high so you're not fatigued and cranky and depressed all the time and things like that. So prenatal vitamin, super important that you're taking it. Most important that it's third-party tested. If you can invest in a little bit more, amazing, great, awesome, but it's totally okay if kind of what you can afford is the drugstore version and you feel confident that it is safe to take.
Yeah, especially like if you're on vacation and you forget it, just run to the drugstore and grab whatever. But you had a brand that you recommended that didn't look too expensive. What brand is it?
Yeah, so Claire Labs with a K is the one that I recommend to a lot of my clients. It's just one of many. Everybody has different needs, but I like that one because it's vegan for my vegan or clients who have a dairy allergy or an egg allergy or need to eat kosher or something like that. And it has a pretty wide variety of different nutrients that are kind of covering your bases, but it's not like over supplementing people. There are some really awesome, super high quality vitamins out there, but they're like 8 pills a day. And I just don't think that's necessary. And I think if we're kind of working on your actual nutrition with food, we don't need that much supplementation. And like you said, the price point's pretty okay. It's pretty comparable. It's kind of middle of the road. It uses the methylated folate. It uses a form of iron that doesn't upset people's stomachs called iron bisglycinate, which I really, really like because some people get super bad stomach upset or constipation, but still really need that iron. And an iron-free formula might just not be right for them. So I like that one. There's, of course, many options in the market. And of course, everybody's always changing their formulations too. So I try my best to stay on top of it. But yeah, for my clients, usually that's kind of my go-to recommendation. And if that doesn't work for them, then I have like a whole other list of other ones that are my go-tos as well.
There are some really high-priced prenatal vitamins out there. So talk with your provider if you have questions about it. But a lot of times those are a lot of marketing. There's a lot of marketing involved in those. They email me asking me to promote them and I don't because I'm like, eat your spinach. But it is frustrating that folic acid isn't like regulated. Like we tell everyone to take it. We should know that there's how many milligrams in this. So that's frustrating. Thank you, United States government. Strong work.
I know. It's like you want to regulate like lots of other things that are very important to regulate, but not this. Like I was seeing something about how the CDC tried to crack down on distilleries that were handing out hand sanitizer during the pandemic. And then everyone was like, what the hell? For good reason, because it's just freaking hand sanitizer. But like, why hand sanitizer and not, I don't know, green coffee that Dr. Oz is selling? Like, I don't get it.
We'll never know. We will never know. And a quick plug that anyone who could conceive a baby should be on a prenatal vitamin.
Yes.
So even if you're not trying to have a baby, if you are doing things that could create a baby and aren't like without your tubes tied, without like an IUD, all those things, take a prenatal vitamin.
Yeah. Or you can take, you can also take a B complex that has folic acid or methylfolate or whatever folate in it, or a women's multivitamin or something like that. If you're on birth control and you're confident in your birth control, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
We get it.
Yeah.
But the rates of unplanned pregnancies in the US are like 50%. And so it's really helpful. We fortify our food supply with folic acid, which is really, really great. But it's helpful if you can think about it. That's just a great extra self-care thing. It'll be good to get a little bit of that extra folate to just protect yourself.
Yeah. In case you guys are like folic acid, you've heard it a million times, but you have no idea why. It means that the tube that connects your spinal column will close all the way. So some babies are born with that like open to air, which is called a neural tube defect. And they have shown like probably 80s, 70s. Do we know what year it was? I don't even remember.
So we started fortifying our food supply in 1998. It's actually pretty new. And I think 92 is when the big recommendation, early 90s. So it's actually not that old, but they started researching it probably in like the 80s, 70s, or late 70s, early 80s kind of thing.
And just showed that a simple thing could help close that, spinal.
It's effective by, taking folic acid or folate reduces the rate of neural tube defects by 70%. It's extremely effective. Yeah.
Note, you can still have a neural tube defect while taking folic acid. So it doesn't prevent all of them, but it prevents a good number of them.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. All
right. Next tip.
Okay. So tip number 4, if you are nauseous, I know that you're freaking out. You're feeling like you can't eat anything healthy and you really care about your pregnancy. It's okay. Deep breaths. Focus on what you can eat versus worrying about what you cannot eat. It is more important to get food in your body, period. Just get enough calories than it is to hyper focus on what you're eating, and kind of just take a deep breath, kind of, even if you need to write down a list, like what can I eat? What can I tolerate? And go through that. Getting something on your stomach first thing in the morning can be really, really helpful. Some people will keep like peanut butter crackers or like some salty nuts or something on their bedside table and just eat a handful before they get out of bed in the morning. That can be really great. But eating your 3 meals, a couple snacks at regular intervals throughout the day can be really, really helpful to keep that nausea at bay. Sometimes in pregnancy, and sometimes even when people are just like anxious or different times of their life, hunger actually shows up as nausea, which feels super counterintuitive, but getting something on your stomach can really help settle it a little bit. So eating consistently throughout the day. Usually what I see people missing out on when they're really nauseous is fiber and protein. So don't be afraid to just use fruit as your fiber. That's totally okay. In fact, that might even be really, really helpful. Bananas are a good source of vitamin B6, which can sometimes help with nausea. And those tart flavors can often settle people's stomachs as well. And then you're going to get some fiber and some micronutrients and antioxidants in with that fruit as well. And then you can try some non-meat proteins. A lot of people have meat aversions when they're nauseous. And so proteins like cheese and peanut butter can also help a ton if you're really, really struggling. So breathe. Ginger tea is also really great if you're nauseous. But again, just like kind of try and ground down, focus on what you can eat, and don't worry too much about what you can't.
And talk to your doctor. And if they're saying some sort of nonsense like, well, we've done all that we can, unless you have an IV in your arm at the time that they're saying that, they haven't done all that they can. And you should say, I'm interested in other things to increase my quality of life right now. Thank you.
Yes.
Because some doctors are real hesitant.
Yes. Unisom exists. I have had some clients on Zofran, and I know that some doctors are hesitant to prescribe Zofran in pregnancy, but I know that it's a thing and it's totally okay to ask for those medications. Absolutely. Also, do you follow Paging Dr. Fran?
She's been on the podcast. We love Paging Dr. Fran.
Oh my God, she's awesome. But she posted a TikTok about Zofran in pregnancy. And she also recommends Miralax alongside it because it does cause constipation. Mm-hmm. So just remember that too. If you're listening to this, you're like, okay, now I'm not nauseous, but now I'm constipated. Get some Miralax. Okay.
There's just no winning. Guys, there's no winning during pregnancy.
No, we apologize.
All right, last tip.
So I mentioned DHA a little bit earlier, but DHA is such an awesome nutrient. So it is a omega-3 fat that is super helpful in fetal brain development, and it actually is shown to help with adult mental health as well. So our brains have a lot of fat in them. And so when we can add in more of those anti-inflammatory omega-3 fats like DHA, it's super, super helpful. So the main source of DHA in our eating patterns is seafood. So if you can eat seafood 2 to 3 times a week, and in pregnancy, we want to be focusing on that low mercury seafood. That's really amazing. And it's a great way to get enough DHA into your system. But if you're like, heck no, I hate seafood, or it's giving me the ick right now, I can't get it down, or it's too expensive, I get it. Absolutely get it. You can take a fish oil supplement. Some prenatals will have that kind of wrapped in there. But if you want to look for 250 to 300 milligrams of DHA, great. If you're vegan, you will need a DHA supplement. They make vegan ones, and it's coming from algae. There's like a bioengineered algae that they figured out how to make it produce DHA, which is super cool as well.
Wow.
So that's a really, really amazing nutrient. That's super cool. And if you can get in some more seafood, great. If not, DHA supplements exist.
Yeah. And we actually have evidence-based mommy coming on. I think it's going up next season, but she recommends that the cheaper the fish, like canned tuna, you're less likely to have mercury in it, because she does she said that, like, if you got a big tuna steak, you're more likely to have mercury in it because it's a larger fish versus they get the tiny tuna to can it. And so you're less likely to have mercury in it.
Idea.
Yeah. So if you are craving a tuna salad, get in there.
I am going to use that for my clients. Absolutely. Yeah. So the light albacore tuna that's in a can tends to be kind of like a medium mercury fish. So 1 can a week is generally fine. And then there's some companies like Safe Catch that actually test all of their tuna to see the mercury levels if you feel freaked out by it. But that's great. I had no idea that that makes sense though, that they would use the smaller tuna for the cans. And it's a great hack. Love that.
Yeah. She just said the smaller the fish, the better. So I was like, I don't even want to think that it was alive as a fish at any point, but I do like tuna salad. So I don't find a lot of pregnant women, though, in case you're out there being like, nope, nope, smell, nope. That's not unusual. People are not like downing fish like crazy, which maybe we're made to not love fish because of the mercury issue. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, there's only a couple fish that are super high in mercury. It's like tilefish, which like I've only seen once on the menu in Charleston. And I was like, I don't want a bottom feeder from the Charleston Bay. Anyways, even if I'm not pregnant. Shark, and like swordfish, orange roughy, ahi tuna, and big eye tuna are our big ones. And most people aren't eating those anyways. It's kind of all of the other seafood. So you can get seafood, great. But if you can't, it's okay.
Yeah. And their supplements, they're everywhere. You can find DHA pretty easily. So
yes. Costco has a really great Kirkland fish oil deal. I just posted on my TikTok, like all the Kirkland supplements that I thought were good, but they do a really good job with checking quality for Kirkland supplements, and their fish oil was a great price. And well,
that's what is purchased of the Erickson household. So, because I still take DHA, I probably don't take it every day, like probably 3 or 4 times a week. So
sure. That's fine.
All right. So many good tips. Where can people find you to get more information? Because guys, I think it's so interesting that we get patients who come in that I'm like, they're like, I haven't felt the baby move. And I'm like, oh man, bummer. Because of course, decreased fetal movement, all the labor nurses are like, hearts in our stomach, baby's on the monitor. And then I'm like, when did you last eat? And they're like, oh, like last night at 8. And it's like noon. And I'm like, come on, guys. You gotta feed yourself. And I just think it's something that people kind of ignore because you're young and vibrant and you haven't really ever thought about your diet up until now. So I think it's really important to follow a dietitian, possibly get some help thinking about nutrients, especially once you start to breastfeed, because you have a parasite in you. That's just the bad news. They will take all the things that they want.
Alien. Yeah, it's a little alien. We love our little aliens.
Most of the time.
Most of the time, but they are taking a lot. So that means you just need a little bit more, and that's okay.
Yeah. So where can people find you to increase their nutrition education?
Yeah. So I am on Instagram as @fertility.prenatal.dietitian, and on TikTok, fertility prenatal dietitian was too long. So I have to go my name on TikTok. So it's @McKenzie Caldwell RDN. And then my website is feedyourzest.com. And I have a group program in addition to offering one-on-one coaching as well.
Yeah, because this is a good time to really get your diet in order before the little people come and you're trying to feed them too. So it's such a good time. If you can
give yourself 3 months to work on your nutrition, that's a really amazing amount of time to give yourself time for behavior change. And it takes an egg 3 months to fully develop before you ovulate too. So it's a great time to use nutrition to impact fertility and pregnancy outcomes as well.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for coming on, McKenzie.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Just like with the rest of life, I feel like we ignore a lot of our food requirements. And I loved having McKenzie on. I want you guys to know that she does do one-on-one coaching. She also has a signature like class that you can take to learn more about fertility nutrition, as well as pregnancy, breastfeeding nutrition and stuff like that. Because now is the time to fix it, because it is only going to get worse the older you get, like your eating habits and things like that. So I loved having her on. The extra good news is we actually have a new bonus video in the online prenatal class for couples that's all about pregnancy nutrition. So if you want to dip your toe into it, come join me in the Bump to Bassinet bundle, where we talk about prenatal nutrition together with McKenzie for a bit. Thank you for coming, McKenzie. Stay tuned, because next week we are talking about the hardest parts of parenting for me, like right now. And then I'm having my friend come on, who is a neonatal nurse practitioner, to talk to us about what happens in the hospital if something were to go wrong with baby. So stay tuned. Thanks so much for joining us on today's episode. The Pulling Curls podcast grows when you share us on social media or leave a review. If you do, please tag us so that we can share and send you a virtual hug, which frankly is my favorite kind of hugging. Until next time, we hope you have a tangle-free day.